Hey guys, welcome back to Tech Check for Season 2, Episode 21. Before we begin, here's a word from our sponsor.
Today's sponsor is Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. It has creation tools that allows you to create and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. Anchor also distributes your podcast for you on multiple platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can make money with no minimum listenership, and everything is in one place to create a podcast. Download Anchor on the App Store or Play Store, or you can go to anchor.fm to create your podcast today.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Tech Check. Today we have Mrs. Sonwalker, who's from Power2Peer. So, could you give us a brief description of what Power2Peer is?
Yeah, so Power2Peer is working on transactive energy and grid synchronization. What that really means is we're trying to solve a problem for easy access to clean energy by creating a marketplace and at the same time managing the voltage and frequency synchronization with the grid so the grid can efficiently do demand during peak.
Interesting. So, what inspired like the name of Power to Peer? I guess like specifically, how do you think of that name?
Yeah, that's very interesting. So we went through a lot of iterations thinking, what's the best. But what we kind of realized later is that, because we were going to use blockchain as one of our enabling technology, and blockchain does peer-to-peer transaction. So the peer came from the blockchain, the peer-to-peer, and power came because we are in the energy space. So we said, okay, power, so peer to peer, yeah, that doesn't sound as a company, right? So we said, okay, power to peer, so that resonated and we said, okay, let's get it. And then we said, does the domain name, can we get the domain name? We got the domain name. So that's how it kind of evolved. But it was kind of, brainstorming a lot of names before we really kind of said, okay, power to peer really tells you what the company is and what our vision is.
Yeah, on the same sort of note, what inspired the foundation of Power2Peer? Like, what inspired you guys to take action in the first place in the whole energy market?
That's a very good question. Obviously, yeah. So we are entrepreneurs. We are always looking at ideas and thinking of ideas, right? So one day, while we were with group of friends, we were talking about climate change, how that's affecting, the global environment and so forth. And then we kind of, started talking about solar rooftop, where a lot of people are now putting solar rooftops on their homes. And we were like saying, hey, that's really helping climate change. But then we kind of realized also that as the solar panels are creating the power and due to net metering, it goes to, goes back to the grid and then you pick it up when you need it. We kind of realized that what if we can tap that excess energy, that the solar panels are producing, and then be able to take that and monetize that and kind of give that to a neighborhood. And so again, that whole idea of neighborhood and peer to peer and peer, kind of resonated. So it was more like, talking with friends, just understanding how the solar energy and how it impacts and how we can really leverage energy that's already on the solar, already on the residential rooftops. So, the whole idea of, you have Uber, we kind of said, okay, we could be the Uber of energy. So that's how we started to think about, I mean, we pivoted a little bit, but that's how, it all started. Like we could be the Uber of energy.
So you said this was mainly inspired by climate change, and in that note, can you what do you think your personal opinion is based on like what's happening in Texas right now with power outages and all of that sort of stuff? How do you think that's really? I just will want your opinion on how that's been that's been a mass effect of climate change.
Yeah, so you said it correct. If you look at what happened in Texas, right? Monopoly is controlled by one utility, right? I think that's where the failure is. It's all centralized, basically. Even so, now with the what we call it distributed energy resources like solar, wind, hydro, all that, if we can bring them together, and connect them with the grid, because the grid have the last mile, right? If you can do that, if there is any power outage, like even in Texas, if they had distributed energy system, they could have easily started to give back the power to the neighborhood as much faster than what they were able to, right? Instead of having all these people out of power, out of heat, and so forth. So I think the distributed energy resources is really important, and is therefore not only important in that way. To be able to integrate that with the grid is even more important, so that we can really fight the climate change as well, because most of the power in specifically in Texas is from fossil fuel, right? So now you are going to give your energy from solar or wind, and if you can integrate that with the grid, you could really help the end user, the consumer, as well as the climate change, right? Because the more you go into clean energy, then you are less dependent on fossil fuel.
So you mentioned earlier that Power2Peer uses blockchain to connect people to each other. So I was wondering, how does Power2Peer send clean energy to, like, your neighbors using this blockchain system?
So yeah, that's again, is a good question. So what we are trying to do is first, as a startup, we have a big vision, right? So if you really look at how internet works today, right? Everything is on the cloud. Even your routers, your switches have gone to the cloud, right? And you could be anywhere in the world. You can get an email. You can be anywhere in the world. You can do Zoom, right? Because the internet allows you to do that. So our very big vision is to be able to use a mobile app, and wherever you are, you should be able to access clean energy with from whom you want, how much you want to play, and what location, right? So that's the very big vision. Obviously, for that big vision, you need a big infrastructure, right? But at this point, we are just trying to solve a very small problem right now, is how can we, so in Massachusetts, what happens is, and we all live in Massachusetts, so if you have solar rooftop, talk to me after this, you can allocate your energy, your excess energy to your neighbors, as long as neighbors, and as long as people who are in your zone. So you fill out a form, which is called Z schedule, and you can now transfer your clean energy to Vinay if he's in the zone, right? Or Niraj, you can do that. So that's our very small first demo project that we want to establish with, by able to go to households that have rooftop solar, put them on our platform, and start allocating those energies to consumer or users who don't have access, because either their home is not able to put the solar panels because it's not optimum, or they are like not sure, So the way it will work is through credits right now, through the grid. Obviously, that information goes to the grid, and then grid will allocate it, and you will see it in your bill, the credit. So that's our first small way of doing it. And for the transaction part, we are going to use blockchains, which is in development, so that we take away the bank or the middleman, right? Because we want to be able to test out the transactive energies, to send that energy, bring it to the right person at the right time, and be able to update that very quickly.
All right, cool. So I was looking through your website, and you guys have something called the software defined network controller, also called SDNC. I was
Yeah.
wondering if you can go more in depth about like what that is and like how that plays a role in your system.
Right. So what happens is that, on a very simple way that I can explain it to you is, once we have the solar rooftop, the residents in our platform, right? Now we can interconnect them. you know so basically, think of your SDN as your router. Everybody is connected to that router, and then the router is able to manage who gets what energy, right? So it's really a so the it, and because and that it is going to be in the cloud, right? So basically, we will aggregate all the so each solar residence is not going to be like on its own. They're going to be interconnected, sitting on the software defined network controller, and then the controller will manage who the which household it goes to, how much it is producing, and who has asked for it. But at the same time, the software network controller, because we are aggregating the energy from many solar rooftop, the software controller will also do the voltage and frequency synchronization with the grid, so that in real time now grid can access energy during peak. So it does, kind of a couple of solution within that software defined network. I can't go more deep into it from a technical, because it is a proprietary software, and we've filed a provisional patent as well. So basically, it's going to manage your assessing, monitoring, managing, and then the flow of electrons between the households and the grid.
That's actually really cool. I was looking into just some competitors in the energy market that you guys might have. There's like really big companies like National Grid and stuff like that. And I was just wondering, what makes Power2Peer different, like stand out compared to competitors who are also in the clean energy market?
Yeah. So I think one of our huge differentiator is that we are looking at neighborhood solar rooftop. We are not creating community solar. We are not creating solar farm. So we are just utilizing the solar production from households that have solar panels on their homes, right? So residentials that have that. So that's one. I don't think a lot. I believe, unless it has come up and it's kind of I missed it. Uh, we are probably the only one looking at residential solar, rooftop solar, right? So that's one. The biggest, I think, more than that, the biggest differentiator is our software-defined network, so by saying that it's going to be built on the blockchain platform. We are enabling blockchain also for our software defined network, for the security, and for it not to be hackable, right? Because it is energy, right? So that's another of our differentiator, is the software defined network, which we are taking it to the cloud, so that we can manage and monitor and be able to pipe energy to whoever whenever they want it.
I just want to touch back on something that we mentioned before with climate change. I just want to ask, how do you see what is the major impact that you guys are trying to make when it comes to the clean energy market, like in terms of a global scale, like with climate change?
Right. So basically, if you look is that with once people realize that they can monetize the excess energy from the solar from the residential rooftop, a lot of people will be what you call inspired to put that solar panel on the roof, right? So the more solar panel you are going to put on the roof, the less dependency on the fossil fuel or dirty energy, right? So I think that's one. And then if we are going to put solar panel, I think we are also going to affect the EV market or the electrical vehicle market as well. So people will say, oh, I'm going to buy an electrical vehicle. I'm going to charge it from my solar panels on my rooftop. But while I am, using my electrical vehicle, I'm still creating, I'm still producing energy, right? So now I can sell that. So I think, the more people are going to put solar panels on their rooftop, there will be a lot of impact for better environment, as well as, I would say, getting rid of gasoline cars, getting rid of gasoline, and that's what we want, right? So the adoption of solar panels for homes and as well as EV will create a big impact on climate change. So we hope to, I think we did some calculation about 500,000 cars off the road next 2, 3, 4 years.
Cool. So, just a quick question. How do you think Power to Peer will evolve in the coming future? I know that you guys are right now working on the blockchain and sending energy through neighbors, but do you guys have any possible plans of other industries or areas that you would want to go in?
Yeah, so definitely we want to work with the grid. To go back to competition, the grid, there's no reason for the grid to switch from fossil to what you call to clean energy, right? They already have the infrastructure, right? So definitely we want to work with the grid. We are looking to work with the grid in terms of now, so we've had talks with National Grid and we've had talks with Eversource in Massachusetts. So we definitely want to be able to work with the grid so that we can scale and be the platform for DER integration, right? That's where the renewables are going, so we know that because we've done a couple of grants for National Science Foundation, DOE, and when we look, it's all about DERs and how DERs will play a role with the grid, right? But if we are not able to integrate those DER with the grid, then everything is like standalone, and then there is no way of sending energy to each other or managing that demand and so forth. So we are hoping to go global at some point, and obviously it's just not going to be in this neighborhood selling it to neighborhood. The bigger play is aggregating all the energy in the cloud and be able to play with the grid so that we can do the synchronization and voltage. Because if you're not able to do the synchronization and voltage, then the grid is going to be difficult. So once we solve that problem, then we can go global, because that's what is needed everywhere.
So I just had a question about how Power to Peer has been functioning with this whole pandemic situation. So how has the company coped with the situation? Did it affect it in a positive way or a negative way?
Yeah, I would say both. So last year, we did a lot of customer discovery because we couldn't do anything much. So that's how, we went to Mass Challenge. We were accepted in Mass Challenge. So that allowed us to do a lot of networking, even though, so through Mass Challenge. So we spent a lot of time through Mass Challenge, from one Zoom to the other, and doing customers discovery, investor meetings, so we can understand, the value of what Power2Peer will give to our customers and end users. So we spend a lot of time on that. We also spend a lot of time understanding the grid, so that's how we kind of pivoted a little bit by not just being a marketplace where you can do neighborhood solar transaction, but also play with the grid. So we were like like, okay, if we are already creating a software defined network to connect the solar households, why can't we now do grid synchronization? So that evolved through, through customer discovery as well, because we spend a lot of time on that. So I think the good part is we were able to do a lot more research, because now we have more time. We didn't have to run to customer's place and so forth. So we had a lot of time doing research, as well as participating in the accelerators such as Mass Challenge. We also did Clean Tech Open Acceleration. It's more like a mini MBA, because you have a lot of deliverables and it's pretty strict. So we also participated in that. So we were actually participating in Mass Challenge as well as Clean Tech Open Northeast, which is a big one for energy. So I think that also gave us time to do both of them, because if it was no pandemic, which I wish it were, doing two would have been very difficult, because now you are supposed to be there face to face, you have to travel and so forth. So I think being able to do a lot of things virtually helped us, and we got two very different knowledge and experience from both of them. Having said that, obviously, you really miss that human connection. Specifically, you don't really get that interaction through Zoom, like what people are thinking, and probe them a little bit more. And it's very defined. You can't say, okay, I'll talk to you later once you leave the hall, and then you wait for someone to come, and and so forth. So it was very defined. So I think so therefore it was difficult to get more insight and more networking, because everyone on Zoom, I think at some point everyone also gets that Zoom fatigue, right? So it was very difficult. And then following up with the email and all becomes even more difficult, because you've really not met that person to really say, okay, well, how does she or he look like, or that interaction between. So I think in that way we kind of suffered, because as an early stage trying to fund, it's good to have a face-to-face, so we miss that a lot. And because we don't have revenue, right, it is that whole networking and cultivating that relationship, I think, suffered a lot. And then obviously because of that, fundraising suffered a lot, right? But overall, I think we did okay. We are a software company, so we were able to build our front end application that we are about to launch in probably in a week or two. We just need a few more things that we need to add, but at least we have a front end application that we can start onboarding solar residential solar customers, providers, and start reaching out to buyers and do the matching and so forth. So we were able to spend considerable time. We redesigned a lot of things, because we kind of pivoted too. So in that case, in that sense, we were able to develop our platform a little bit more than we would have, I guess.
Yeah, I just have a couple final closing sort of questions. First of which is, what advice would you give to a student who wants to work in the energy industry? Like, what skills do you think they would need the most, and what yeah, I guess what advice would you give to a student looking to work in the energy or and software industries?
Yeah, so I think it's about passion, right? We all feel climate change, is really bothering everyone, and specifically now when you really look at Texas, you look at wildfires in California, and so forth. It's a kind of a broad, this whole energy sector is really broad, right? One could be working on something like Power2Peer in the transactive energy, understanding how that works, or one could be really work on the photovoltaic, where you want to increase the efficiency of photovoltaic panels, right? Or one could just work on, analytics, like, if this happens, what happens, how climate change is affected, or, that whole calculation on CO2, carbon capture. I mean, I would say it's really broad, so I think it's all about passion. If you are going to be in software, again, you can, I think you guys did a good job, looked at Mass Challenge or looked at Clean Tech Open. Clean Tech Open more in the energy, because they do a lot of energy. In fact, they are taking application right now for this year's cohort. So, they are great resources to go there and see what type of clean energy companies are there to kind of, because there are a whole lot of different types of clean energy, and figure out like what you would like to be involved in, because you can always apply the software anywhere, right? Whether it's clean energy, health, education, you can apply that anywhere. So I think you need to figure out within the climate what really interests you. Are you more of a hardware that you want to work on, flywheel, or you're more software that you want to work on, analytics and stuff like that. But as a student, I would say that the climate change and climate arena is wide open.
And finally, for our listeners, where would you be able to reach Power2Peer if we wanted to contact you guys in any way?
Yeah, absolutely. On the website, we have www.power2peer.com. You can always read our website, go to our website. We have blogs. We kind of try to keep that very active. We have LinkedIn page. You can like the LinkedIn page as well, Power2Peer LinkedIn page. So I think we are pretty. From time to time, we do webinars, and so you can sign up for webinars if you are interested. But there are already previous webinars and blogs. So if you go to our blog site, you can really read about all the things that we have done and we plan to do as well. Um, so I guess those would be the places that you would go to.
Sounds good. For our listeners, we're going to be putting all this information in our description and on social media. So if you want to check out Power2Peer, be sure to check them out. We'll have all the information ready for you. Miss Sonwalker, we just want to thank you for hopping on the podcast with us. We really appreciate it. Do you have any final words for our listeners?
No, I think you guys are doing a great job. Thank you for reaching out. I know it took some time, but this is very exciting for Power2Peer as well. And I thank you for your patience. We went back and forth, but here we are. We've done it, and good luck to you all. And if there's any questions, or if you guys are interested to pursue something with Power2Peer, we are very open. We would love to work with young people like yourself. We have a lot of projects that you guys can get involved if you wish to. And you have my contact information, so feel free to connect as needed.
All right. Thank you again to our listeners. Thanks for listening. Stay safe and stay tuned for the next one.